with all these allegations against Vince McMahon with sex trafficking, with sexual assault, you have Bret Hart, who he's been one of the more outspoken, opinionated people in wrestling when it comes to his thoughts on Vince in relation to these with these allegations. You have other people in the wrestling business who have been a bit more, watching their words, being very careful with what they're saying in interviews, and then you get the people like John Cena who will say in Howard Stern, "Oh, I'll have Vince's back no matter what. No matter what, I still love the guy." But you had Bret Hart. He was saying though with Vince, there's that it was disgusting. He's a weirdo. He's a creep. Before, even when he had issues with Vince, there was still a level of respect there. But now he doesn't have any more respect for Vince McMahon, and Bret Hart and Vince McMahon very much have had a love-hate relationship over the years. It goes back to the with the Montreal Screwjob. And then Bret goes to WCW. There was that thing there. The tragedy that happened with Owen Hart. The Over the Edge show. But Bret did go on to mend fences with WWE and Vince. He went into Hall of Fame, and he does stuff with WWE. He's still affiliated with the WWE, and he's got a Legends deal. But with this on a video that it's on Inside the Ropes, and shows that they do. Bret Hart was blasting people that take credit for the Montreal Screwjob. Vince Russo is one person he brings up in the video, and Vince Russo has said before that he was the brains behind the idea. He suggested that Shawn Michaels get Bret Hart in his own finisher, the sharpshooter, and then that's how they would screw him out of the title. One thing with that though, Russo says that, but then Russo in many other interviews though says that he was never responsible for coming up with those ideas for finishes with the matches. He would always leave that up to the agents and the producers with going over the spots and stuff for the match. He always said that he would stick to the angles, the storylines, and helping out with the promos and writing that. There's so many people want to take credit for these things in wrestling. It's not just with the Montreal Screwjob. You got people that want to take credit for coming up with the name of the Clique. The guys Michaels, Triple H, Waltman, Nash Hall. You got people that try and claim that they were the one responsible for bringing Hulk Hogan into WCW. You get people that claim that they were the one that came up with the NWO faction. Didn't apparently Greg Gagne claim that he came up with that idea? All this stuff, but And there's another video I'll show as well. There's a video of Shawn Michaels that did a shoot interview back in 2000, and he's been asked about the Montreal Screwjob. And at this point, Shawn Michaels is acting as if he wasn't in on it. But then 2 years later, on WWE Confidential, he admits that, no, I was in on it all along. So, and what's very kind of weird with Shawn Michaels, he actually throws Pat Patterson under the bus on this, in saying that Pat was in on the Screwjob. But we've always heard that Pat wasn't the one that was in on it. It was just like Vince, Jerry Briscoe, and I believe Shawn Michaels, and probably, I'm guessing, Triple H. If Shawn would have been on it, I imagine he probably would have told Triple H all what was going to go down. But the thing is, I don't know if that was just a thing to protect Pat, because Montreal was Pat's hometown, and it didn't want it would be bad. He didn't want it to appear Pat that, he would be in on it and he was screwing over a fellow Canadian in Bret Hart. I don't know. Maybe that was the case. So that's why they always let on like Pat wasn't in on the Montreal Screwjob. But it's interesting though, like Shawn saying that he thinks that maybe Pat was in on it, because I know Sean Waltman said before in a shoot interview once that that he felt he was being asked whether the Screwjob was a work or a shoot, and he was saying that because of that whole thing with the Screwjob, it was so compartmentalized that the people who were in on it weren't necessarily aware of other people who were in on it. So, and I can kind of get what he's saying. It's maybe that one of those things that people were told separately what was going to go down. It wasn't like everyone all got in a bunker, so to speak, and they were all told about this evil plan and what was gonna go down. So maybe maybe Patterson was in on it and he knew about it, but then obviously Shawn Michaels later on let the cat out of the bag that he was in on the Montreal Screwjob. So I'm going to play the video with with the Bret Hart video, and then after that you'll see the clips for the Shawn Michaels shoot interview, and that's back in 2000 time, early mid 2000.
Yeah, I meet all these guys. I meet so many of these guys, from Vince Russo, Bruce Prichard is another one, Jim Cornette is another one. They all take credit for, they were all involved in the screw job. They all had a hand in it. They all were part of it. They all, and it's such bullshit. When I watch stuff, I go, Eric Bischoff didn't have anything to do with what happened that day, and Vince Russo doesn't know anything about what happened that day. He was like nobody. He had zero involvement in what I was doing with Vince, and had no idea what my contract was. I don't think Vince Russo even knew what my issues were with the company. And same with so many of the guys that they have people that they want to be involved, like Vince Russo and Bruce Prichard wish they were part of the screw job, and that they could have been involved in that, and that they could have had a say, and like, yeah, screw them, you know. They wish they could say that, but they had zero to do with it. Today they want to take credit for it, like that they were involved in it. Like, to me, it's like taking credit for being part of an assassination or something. It's like, I don't know why you'd want to throw your hat in the ring and say I was part of it, but they all seem to want to, you know, convince themselves that they are that important. But I don't think they were. I know Jim Cornette, who's always been nice to me and a good friend to me, but he had zero to do with anything that happened with me in WWF. And for him to think that he had some kind of stake in it, or he was one of the guys that put what happened down, like what happened to me was part of his, you know, he had some say in it, is just hogwash. They had nothing to do with anything to do with me, period.
So with AEW, you showed up at Double or Nothing. What led to you showing up there? Are we going to see you in AEW again? Like, what's the story behind that?
Oh yeah, that question.
Getting back to the Bret match, Survivor Series.
Yep. Very weird day. You could feel something that day. Bret didn't get there till like 5, very late. You know, people wonder if he was going to show up, but just you could tell something was in the air that day. And I don't know if it's because you could see it with the boys too. All the boys were different that day, and I think that might have been just because Shawn and Bret finally got it. But at the same, I mean that friction, all that stuff sort of died down. I don't know, at least in my mind it had. But I think in the wrestling world, in the underground, the dirt sheet world, I think they had built it up into it being, you know, ooh, what's going to happen. But it was a very different day that day. But he came in, and he invented their thing, and then he and I had a long, you know, nice long talk, which will then prove what everyone wants to know. But he obviously, if he was wired, which he was, as you saw in his biography, when he went into Vince, I talked to him right after that. We had a long conversation. He's obviously wired when he talked to me. But it didn't show any of that, because that would have then proven my innocence in the whole the whole scam. But he didn't use that in his piece, because my part was to play the bad guy.
Right.
But we had a very nice conversation. You know, he told me the whole story. You know, and I was quite taken back by the fact that I didn't think that no matter what feelings he and Vince had, well, all I can guess is that he must it couldn't have happened the way his little biography said. And I know that it didn't, because I saw some of it. I haven't seen the whole thing. I saw the part where he's in the limo talking about how I'm saying, you know, he's not comfortable calling me a fag and all this, that, and the other. And I'm telling him, yeah, no, say it. And of course, well, that wasn't true, because one, he was very comfortable saying that, because he said it all the time.
Right.
And two, what I said was, you can say whatever you want, but can you stay off that stuff, because it bothers my parents a little bit. You know? So that was Bret just acting for the camera. That was just a lie. Plain, straight out lie, because I never said anything like that. I said, don't mind. I said, but just, you know, you've been hammering that forever now. You know, can you just lay off it? You know, because my dad don't like to, you know, just offends my parents a little bit, and
I don't know. He might have been trying to build tension between you two.
yeah, no, I can't remember. I mean, I might have. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember if that's when he told me. I don't know if it was the Wednesday, Tuesday, whatever.
Right.
I mean, I remember him calling, talking about the match. Oh, I know what it was. He was saying that because no, he did tell me. He did say that, you know, Bret's leaving, and then he did ask. I said, "Fuck, no, I'm not doing it if he's leaving.
Right.
There's no way." So no, you're correct. I did refuse because he was leaving. I said, "I'm not." I said, "What?" I said, "You want me to do that?" I said, "You really want me to do that? I'll do it." I said, "If you want me to put over a guy that's going to go to WCW, I'll do that." You know, I said, "But if you're asking me, do I think I should do it? No, I think it's fucking stupid." He wanted me to. He wanted to hear me say no. That's when I started finally realizing what he was looking for, and he wanted me to say no so he could go back to Bret and say no, so that he could use that against Bret to say, "Look, we need to have a finish here." But I remember saying, "Fuck no, we're not going to," because Hunter was on the phone. Both Hunter and I were on the phone.
Right.
I remember saying, "Fuck no, that's fucking stupid." He goes, "Well, you know, Bret doesn't want to do this, that," and I said, "All right, fine." I said, "If you want," and that's because I knew if I said it like that, he's going to go, "Well, no, I'm not going to do that." But I said, "You want me to put over a guy from WCW, I'll do it." I said, "But it's fucking stupid," you know. So we get there, and then it's a different story, because then we get to the show, it's a different story. Then it's a DQ, and because if I remember correctly, it was supposed to be just that show, and then he was leaving. But now it's going to be this show, then he's coming out on Raw, I think, and relinquishing the belt or something
Right.
like that.
Was there plans of anything getting the? Yeah, they were going to get the belt maybe in a four-way in Springfield, maybe a month later.
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, well, I
If
don't
he
know if it was a
released the belt
four-way or
next
winner,
night.
but if he was going to do that,
Right.
yeah, Pat's got to win the match with. So he's the only guy that could have known. I don't know, unless he told someone else and then they, whatever.
Right.
But we did that spot. I mean, and he went because he was just going to reverse it, and I was going to go out and grab the rope, continue our match, and then was eventually going to have, I think, Hunter and China come down, then the Harts come down, just get into big schmoz and end it.
So you're pretty pissed off when it happened.
Huh?
If you watch the video,
Yeah, I didn't, because one, I knew that I was going to be in the same situation that I've always been in. But this time, most of the time, I put myself in that position. I didn't mind. This time, I was involuntarily put into a position. I knew I was going to be the scapegoat. I knew I was going to be the guy to get blamed. I knew I was going to, I knew it was all going to go on me. And like I said, times in my career when I purposely put myself there and I knew it was going to happen, I didn't mind. This was the time when I wasn't prepared for that. So, yeah, I didn't like it. And again, it was just, it's one thing to talk about it, because even in our conversation, Bret said that. Bret said,
have you talked to Bret since this?
No.
No.
Never talked to him since. But in that conversation prior to the match, I can remember him saying, a lot of guys told me not to let you put a hold on me or go for any false finishes. And I said, well, don't. Don't. Doesn't matter to me. He said, no, we got to have a match. And I said, it's fine. I said, but because I can remember him saying, like, I don't want to see talked over with Vader and some other guys. And they said, well, don't do this, don't do that. So he was aware, of what could have possibly happened. As was everybody. Like I said, it was a very, very different day that day. But it's one thing to talk about. And there were a lot of guys saying to me, fuck that. You can't just let the guy, who's to say he's going to show up tomorrow at Raw? Which is the $1 million question everybody was asking me. And I said, go ask him, because finally at that time, this whole Bret and Shawn thing, I had enough of. So I wasn't about to take any more, I wasn't on Vince's side anymore, I wasn't on anybody's side but my own. And I just wanted out, I wanted it to stop, because it's been like 2 years.
Right.
And it was just old. It was really old. So, I just, fine, I take the fucking belt, but, whatever. Put it on me when you want, but this shit's got to stop. And for Vince, he just felt the best way for it to stop was to get rid of Bret. So, I guess that was his way of doing it. I couldn't think, but again, by seeing the documentary and stuff like that, the guy wouldn't let anything else go. But anyway, so he still let me. I put the figure 4 on him in the match, if I remember correctly, and then we did that spot. And ding ding, he went. And outer went, and I was just like, fuck. You know, again, it's one thing to think, you know, one thing to say, ooh, this could happen, but it's another, I mean, that's big. That is really, really big.
Right.
Main event, these two guys got this big, huge thing in and out of the ring. Everybody knows about it. It's just big. It's huge.
That match changed the history in wrestling because eventually Vince turned himself heel because of that. And
Yep.
basically
Changed
changed the business.
Yep. You know, but the thing is, I mean, I just didn't like that. I was the scapegoat, and I can remember Vince also saying, sometime beforehand, whatever happens, you know, Bret doesn't like something around that. Like, if he comes at me, you know, everybody stay out. He was telling a room full of people this.
Right.
You know, his son. You know, so I guess he knew that he was. I mean, that's what I can remember people saying. Oh, that had to be a work. It's like he even knew that he was going to get hit, and I was right there when he did. Hell, I saw him and he took a dive. You know, he sold like he sells on TV, which is brutal.
Right.